But wait, there's more. Ugh. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another pile chat. Pillow talk, I'm gonna fold my laundry and tell you another story. I'm really enjoying doing these. I'm actually gonna jump right in as I start to intro this because this is a lot to get through. But I am really enjoying doing these story times and being productive at the same time. So this is your sign to pause the video and get over to that pile of clothes you need to fold, or that kitchen you need to clean, or grab a snack and just enjoy. So last week I did a story time about my life as a promo model, and so many of you had great insights. Some of you had your own stories about it, and a lot of you were just like straight up interested in it. So today I figured I would go ahead and tell you the story that I've been teasing for a while about my life as an assistant to a 16-year-old. I am not making this up. This is 100% true. It is just as ridiculous as it sounds. I don't know if you guys were around when I did a show for ABC Digital, but I did a show called This Isn't Working. And that show is all about little part-time jobs that I've had. So this might be a little bit redundant if you've seen that show, although, did I include this? Yes, I did. I did include the 16-year-old story in that. It was a little bit different than how it actually was. So here's the truth of the matter. So like I had mentioned previously, after college, I was sort of on this hunt to do a million part-time jobs because I have never been a 9-to-5 kind of gal. I don't really have the skills for a lot of the 9-to-5 jobs, and I wanted to keep my days open for auditions because, you know, that was kind of my thing at first, was I'm gonna go on as many auditions as humanly possible and try to kick off my career as an actor. And then YouTube came along, and the rest is this beautiful history that has gotten me here to folding laundry and telling you stories on camera. What is my life? Anyways, reverse. So I applied for a bunch of part-time jobs and I was working a bunch of them, and my mom, who used to do travel, she was a travel agent, she was doing work for this one kind of like high, like top-end agent. I think he was an agent. He was either an agent or a manager, but he was like very Hollywood, but very kind. No, I remember now. My mom was on a vacation and met him. I don't know. It had to do with travel and my mom connecting with this person. So as it turns out, we ended up having like a lot of similar friends and family in common. Not family, we weren't related, but like family friends in common. And as it turns out, his kids went to the high school I went to. So at this time, I'm, you know, in my mid-20s, and I get this call from my mom being like, hey, this dude is in need of a, quote, personal assistant. And I'm like, yes, for a 16-year-old. And I'm like, ugh. Okay, I mean, this should be interesting. What does this entail? So she puts me in touch with him, and basically it was actually like kind of cool. So basically he had recently gotten divorced, and so the kids were spending half the time with him and half the time with the mom, and when they were with him, he needed a little extra help, but I don't think they wanted like a nanny because the kids were like a little bit too old for a nanny, so they called it a personal assistant to essentially like help with stuff that like he just didn't either have the time to do or that she was like not good at doing, like cleaning out her closet. Like there was a task where we had to like one day just like go through all of her stuff, her really nice fancy stuff that I was like dying for, and like I had to like help her organize it and pick it out. And all along the way, his whole thing was like, it would also be awesome if you could sort of like mentor and help her because, you know, she's at that age where she's trying to figure out who she is and what she wants to do and this and that. So, so I agreed to do it because it seemed fun. It seemed kind of easy, and, you know, I needed a job. So as it turns out, she's super cool, like way too cool for me. Like I am intimidated at this point. Gorgeous, fashion forward, like super popular, all the things I definitely wasn't. And so it was a little bit challenging in that respect. I kind of felt like I was like the kid in school that just like wanted to be friends with the cool kid, or whose parents like set them up and she's like not having it. But I think in retrospect, she might have thought I was cool, but don't quote me on that. So as it turns out, my job ended up consisting of really picking her up from school, my old high school, and there was something kind of like embarrassing about that. Like when I would pull up and like, we went to a school that had like guards, you know, do most schools now have like security guards? And so they like all knew me and waved and like, it was just kind of weird. Like I'm just picking up this kid. And then I would have to drive her to her auditions because she's an aspiring actress. And as it turns out, she is a working actress now, a very good one at that. But I remember being so jealous because she got to audition for like all this big stuff that I like never was able to. Like she was like 12 steps ahead of me in terms of her acting career, even at that age. And so I would just like take her to these like really fancy auditions and she would be so like casual and passe about it. Cut to me at any audition be like, I'm so nervous. Hence the reason why she's very successful and I'm still struggling. But that was like a bulk of what this ended up being. But then the real kicker, my friends, is that her dad also asked me to teach her how to drive, which was horrifying, okay? First and foremost, like, no like 20-something-year-old should be teaching a 16-something-year-old how to drive. I just don't think that's, like, especially like a stranger. Like, for all intents and purposes, I was a stranger. So why am I teaching a 16-year-old, or at the time, I guess 15-year-old, how to drive? That seems crazy and insane, and it's probably because the dad was too neurotic to do it himself. And respect, it is a very scary thing to do. So we went driving. Oh, we went driving, and it was horrifying. And I wouldn't be surprised if she's a terrible driver now. It's all my fault. I'm trying to think of like what other like crazy thing. As it turns out, we ended up just like partying together, which, you know, was not what her dad wanted us to be doing. But what are you doing hiring a just out of college nobody to be taking care of your child? I ask you that. Anyhow, other than that, it was just a lot of like trying to get her to open up about what was going on with her at school and things like that as we did our like daily sort of chores and pickups and stuff. But I don't think that job ended up lasting very long for one reason or another. My guess is she was probably over it and I probably was not doing the best job. Again, having a 20-year-old, you know, try to take care of a 16-year-old, both of them not knowing each other, is a little bit bizarre. But yeah, I was straight up a personal assistant for her. I went and got the dry cleaning. I organized the closet. I helped clean up. Oh, and then a couple years later, I was at an audition myself. And as it turns out, one of the like producers or writers was her husband. Like that's how much time had passed that she like grew up and has a husband. And so I was telling him the story about how we ended up partying together. And that was probably where that job ended, but he thought it was pretty hysterical. Weird times, man. I'm curious if you guys have a teenager, if you would trust a 20-something-year-old to take care of them. Before that, when I was even younger, like right out of college, I was a nanny for a while for a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old, and that was exhausting. Like I would literally pick them up from school, take them to soccer practice, do the whole like pretend mommy thing. But there's something like different about it when it's not your kids, I'm assuming. Like it was fun, but I don't think I was in the right headspace. I feel like I would be a way better nanny now than back then. Because back then it's like, dude, you're just trying to figure out life, you're partying, you're, you know, figuring out who you are. And so to then be responsible for kids, I don't know, kind of insane. The irony of that family is that the mom was really super cool. I liked her a lot. And I've ran into her at the weed shop, which is hysterical. Oh no, has this been out of focus the whole time? Sorry, I feel like these get out of focus because I'm not like checking to make sure they're not in focus, but I think you're just listening listening to me yap. Anyways, the irony of that story is that that mom sent both of her kids off to college because that's how old I am at this point. And I was like on Facebook asking friends if anyone dog sat because we needed a sitter for Corny, and she volunteered, and I was like, what a weird like full circle moment. I didn't end up going with her, but like how funny would that have been? Life, man, life. I never did personal assistant work ever again. I don't think it was a product of that experience. That one always like struck me as something I'd be good at, but I never pursued. And I think it's because like you really have to be kind of like available at all hours to do literally anything. And there's like something super unappealing about that. Even though like the work of personal assistant is like fun. It's like, you know, I always thought it would be cool to be like a house manager or something like that. But I think to really do that job well, you really have to be committed and not just like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, which is how I am with, or how I was with all my part-time jobs. It's just like, I knew for sure that they were part-time jobs. I wasn't committing my life to it. It wasn't what I wanted to do. And I feel like personal assisting or like full-time nannying, you kind of have to be like committed to that art to really like thrive and do a good job. And it's like, you don't want to volunteer to do that or accept that job and then not do a good job. You know what I'm saying, y'all? But would I be a personal assistant to a 16-year-old again? Only for the stories. Only for the stories. I wish I remembered more stories. I don't know about you guys, but like my 20s, especially right out of college, a lot of it's just like kind of a blur. Not because I was having super fun, although I was having super fun. It's just like life goes in such chapters that I really have a hard time remembering the super small details of everything. Jeff can remember details of like literally everything. I just can't. My brother can too. Like he can tell you the time and place and address of where we were and when it was and what we were doing. And I'm like, I can't remember what I did literally 10 minutes ago. Anyone else feel me on that? I'm making pretty good headway here, I would say. Every time I do one of these, I'm like, I'm gonna clean a different part of the house. And then I see the pile of laundry and I'm like, well, maybe next time, folks, maybe next time. Speaking of next time, let me know in the comments below which of the following jobs you wanna hear about next. 1, do you want to hear about my life as a birthday party princess? Or number 2, would you like to hear about my job, my very first official job, working at Jamba Juice? Let me know in the comments below. And or if there's any other kind of stories that you want to hear about. Obviously, the job stories are going to end at some point because then we catch up and I'm a YouTuber and here we are. But there's so many other facets of life and little random one-offs that I would love to talk about. I know some people wanted to know about acting and my experience in that, maybe some college stuff. Happy to share. I just was kind of hoping to get an idea of what the general public out there wanted to hear about. What I would love to know in the comments is if any of you have been a personal assistant and or like a full-time nanny, especially to older kids, and what your experiences of that are like. I really love reading your comments. Oh my God, did you guys see that? It was so cute. You're so cute, Gwen. Oh, look at her. I'd really love to hear your stories and experiences. It's just so fun to compare and just a good reminder that, you know, we're all out here hustling, like I mentioned last time, and we all have some very similar, like, shared experiences, even if they aren't exactly the same and we're not in the same position, place, time. We can still sort of all come together on this idea of working to make our ends meet and, you know, having some funny and weird stories along the way. So make sure to leave them down below. Oh, there was this one job that I had, if you guys want to hear about it. The truth of the matter is I ended up only training for it and then I decided not to do it. But my experience training for it was bonkers. And that was being one of those people that like recruit kids to like come to like an acting studio where you end up like paying money to have your kid like get their pictures taken. Basically, it was a pyramid scheme to get like people to come in to try to make their kids famous. And after like the training of it, I was out. I thought I could do it, and I thought it was gonna be fun, and then I was like, this is so creepy and so wrong. Like, I ain't about to steal someone's money all in the name of them trying to get their kids famous. I guess I just told the story right now, so there's no point in me doing a whole video about it. But basically, like, I was like, okay, I need a part-time job, and it's one of those things that are like really easy. All I have to do is like talk to people. And so I went to like the in-person training, and it was like in this like weird like hotel, you know, like little room, not in a hotel room, but like in a little like conference room in a hotel. And we did all the training, and they're like trying to convince you that like this is not a scam essentially. And it's like, hey, no, it's like this program, it's this school. So like a lot of times we'll like bring in people from like out of town, and we'll, you know, we'll suggest that they all live in this like one place, and then they come and they take classes. But in order to like take classes and get the pictures and meet the agents that are being promised and the casting directors, you have to like pay a lot of money. So like the classes you're taking are here, but also the pictures you're taking are here. Like everything is through this company, and basically you're like shelling out money in hopes that these people are going to help you get famous or get your child famous. And so first of all, you should never have to pay for like that. Like you can pay for your headshots and you can take classes, but you should never have to pay to meet casting directors. Like that's actually, eventually they made that illegal. But anyways, if you didn't know that, then you would fall for these scams. There's a bunch of these kind of like acting schools still out there that like do this, especially for parents with their kids. But anyway, so we went through like this training, and then the second step of the training was to actually go into places where families were. So we went to Target, and I like shadowed this girl that did it. Basically, she would just like have these cards, and she's like walk up to these families and be like, oh my God, your kid. Oh my God, your kid's so cute. And they'd be like, oh, thank you. Be like, I'm sorry to like interrupt, but like, have you ever thought about doing acting? Like, I think that your kid would be really good at it. Like, I don't want to push. There's no obligation, but like, here's a card. We're holding these auditions on Saturday. Like, just bring your kid in. He doesn't need to like prep anything. They just come on in, and like, if we accept them, like, your life could change essentially. So like you draw them in for like a free audition, and then like every kid gets in unless they like are really terrible. And then from there it's like, okay, well, you are in for this price. You could do this, 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 this. So my job would have been to continue to go to like the mall or Target and do that. And after a day of shadowing her, I was just like, this is not for me for so many reasons. I hated it. So there you go. Another little side hustle that I attempted to do, and then was like, not for me. But it makes for a good story. So there you have it. I love chatting with you guys. I love story timing with y'all. So give me a thumbs up if you want to see more of these. And as always, leave those comments below. I love hearing from you, and I simply adore you guys. Here's to the hustle, y'all. Here's the hustle and flow. Hustle and fold. Hustle and fold. I'm working on it. Love you guys. Bye.